Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we're tracking the possibility for another significant severe weather set that will be going on across portions of the South, including places like Louisiana, portions of Arkansas, Mississippi, portions of Alabama, Tennessee, possibly as far north as Kentucky, where we could possibly see all threats, damaging winds, possibly for some large hail, and also for the chance for tornadoes, as some of those could be strong. So let's go ahead and get started with the SPC outlook. And as you can see here, we got a couple of marginal risk areas. We got one across uh, southern Iowa, northeastern Missouri, and even for southwestern. Okay, I don't know why that happened. Southwestern Illinois. Then you got another marginal risk area for southeastern Louisiana, and for portions of Alabama as well, which includes Mobile there as well. Nothing too big of a deal on day one, which is for the rest of today. So for tomorrow, we do have a slight risk for severe weather across northeastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and also for northwestern Mississippi as well, with a large marginal risk surrounding those areas. There's going to be a little tornado threat, not going to be a big deal. Wind, there may be some there, but the hail is looking to be the primary threat, and that's what's leading to the slight risk. Alright, here's the big day. Day 3, which is Thursday. We got enhanced risk for severe weather across the northwestern Alabama, western Alabama, southwestern Tennessee, most of Mississippi, northeastern Louisiana, and even for southeastern Arkansas as well, with a slight risk surrounding those areas. For some of the other states, there's also nearby. We do have a chance for significant severe, which includes the chance for some strong tornadoes out there in some of the areas that is in the hatched area. So that's what we got to watch for here, is for the areas mainly in the enhanced risk zone here, which don't be surprised that a moderate risk does get issued by the SPC tomorrow, and probably see an expansion of the slight risk a little bit more to Kentucky, a little bit more to the Ohio Valley as well, which we are seeing increasing severe weather threat for those areas as well. So let's take a look at the European model, and I'll tell you guys this. It's still pretty much the same as the last video, which was about a day or two ago. So what we got here Thursday evening, well, mainly Thursday afternoon, we got a 995 millibar low in northwestern Arkansas, and we do have some thunderstorm activity across Mississippi, northern Alabama, northeastern Louisiana, and also for southeastern Arkansas. And for some of those areas in there, some of those could be supercells which can produce all hazards. Now this will be continuing to move to the northeast and also rapidly deepening at the same time. So then at this point here, so now getting to Thursday evening, your severe weather threat moves to the north. So now you kind of have portions of Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois. You still got some severe weather potential across portions of Mississippi and Alabama as well, with that severe weather threat pushing to the north. And then as you kind of get to the overnight hours, severe weather threat may continue across eastern Kentucky and also for eastern Ohio. But take a look at this low pressure, 984 millibars. Still the strongest model out there with the low, but it seems like other models are trending towards a more robust low as well, but probably not as strong as what the European model is showing. That's very strong there for a low pressure system. So let's take a look to some other things. Actually, let's just kind of go through the models here with the reflectivity, actually. We'll do that first. So let's take a look to the high-res NAM. As you can see here, possibly some thunderstorms across portions of Iowa and Illinois. And then as you kind of get into um, late Wednesday night, you actually do see some possibly severe thunderstorms kind of going on Red River. I think that's what it's called, Red River, or you could say along the Oklahoma-Texas state line. That's going to be continuing to move to the northeast, and it should die down as it moves into central Arkansas. But then as you kind of get to Thursday morning, we have probably a warm front here and possibly another warm front here. So you kind of have two warm fronts right here. So you got one there, one here. Your low is back here. Well, I think it's still way back here. Then you got your cold front right here. And this warm sector right here is the warm sector to watch here. So we kind of move on into the early morning hours. Now, there is a chance there may be a cap. Which, if there's going to be a cap, I mean, it may be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing at the same time. Let me say why. So, if we're going to have a cap here, thunderstorms won't develop, so you won't have any widespread thunderstorm activity. However, there's a bad side to it. Your atmosphere is going to become more unstable. So, your CAPE numbers are going to be going up in some of these areas at here. And when that cap breaks, big thunderstorms could develop, and some of those could possibly be supercells that could produce all hazards, including the chance for a long track, strong tornado, and within one of those. And the stuff that's been trending towards with the models here. When that cap breaks, yeah, then you got that happening. And you can kind of see here, it seems like the cap just kind of sticks around here. You don't really get big thunderstorms early Thursday afternoon. And then as you kind of get into Thursday evening, here we go. You got one supercell right there, and you're going to see those supercells start to increase the coverage. So you got, let me change the color here. We'll go with green. So you got one supercell here, got a couple here, possibly another one here, and there could be some other ones somewhere in some of these zones here as well. And these are going to be continuing to move to the northeast, and more supercells could develop. And now some of these supercells will eventually become linear mode. So you're going to have squall line of supercells, which probably will decrease the tornado potential, but that could also increase your damage and wind potential with some of these supercells. So you may have a supercell here, 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 couple here, possibly one here, maybe a couple in northern Alabama. So this is something we really have to watch very closely here. And then as we kind of continue on here, as we kind of get further north here, now if this is going to be correct, your severe weather probability is going to be staying a little bit lower across Kentucky because of that widespread thunderstorm activity. But if you do get some breaks in some of these zones here, I mean, take this area here, for example, here, where it's not been worked up as much. You can see here, look at these thunderstorms back here, start to gain some strength again. If we kind of get a sounding in there, you can see here, now looks to be no cape here. You can see your surfacey space. There's like nothing mid-level, not a whole lot of anything. Only 172. But what we also do have is very high wind shear. I mean, take a look at the storm wave to Felicity. That is extremely high. You got as high as 841. You only need 150. Wind shear and knots here, shear, 61. That's pretty favorable. Take a look at this Holder graph here. I mean, look how large this is here. I mean, it goes all the way up there. If we have more cape, then your angle will probably look something like that, which would be very supportive for strong tornadoes at that point. But since we do not have any cape here, your tornado threat will stay a little bit lower in. Now, if we probably try to get a little closer to some of those thunderstorms, kind of on the leading edge, we may actually get something here. And we actually do get something a little bit better here. Now, your wind shear is still a little bit lower, but still favorable for tornadoes. Keep in mind of that. You got better cape numbers, slightly better. Also, your hodograph is a little bit larger. At least with this angle here. You can see here. It's a little bit larger. So, it's still a little bit more favorable there along that squall line. That's something we got to watch for. So, yeah, on that. So, let's take a look to the NAM here. As we can see here, it's still a little bit further to the southeast than what some other models are showing. It's been kind of like that for the past couple of runs. I mean, at some points it has the low here, but I believe it now has shifted to the northwest, which seems to be the trend as of right now. Seems like the main track of this low right now, from most of the models, is going to be probably like right in here. It's going to be your track and low. And you can see here the NAM is further to the southeast. I think it's the furthest southeast than what the other model is showing. So I would not be surprised it'll start to trend northwest with the other models, which will give a better environment for severe weather across people further north. But kind of going back here, so this is kind of get to Thursday evening. Oh, come on, man. Here we go. Let's try that again. There we go. So 21Z, so that's getting to the evening hours. You got some shower thunderstorm activity going on out here, which I would imagine some of these were supercells earlier on. If we back this up a little bit, you do have some thunderstorm action here, clustering up here. Now, if this is going to be correct here, that's some widespread shower thunderstorm activity. So that will keep the instability a little bit lower. If we do get a sounding out there, let me take southwestern Mississippi, for example. Yeah, you got a pretty decent hodograph here. I mean, it's pretty small with the curve here. Well, yeah, not that big of a curve. Critical angle number is a little bit lower, but there's also a good amount of cape out here. I mean, 2800, yeah, that's quite a bit of cape. And also the atmosphere is going to be pretty unstable here, so that's something you can watch for. And take a look at those dew points. Dew points could be in the low 70s. That is some pretty high dew points for this time of year. I mean, when you get low 70s dew points, that is a very humid atmosphere you got going on there. Yeah, low 70 dew points. That's something you don't see that often. Trust me on that. That's something you don't see. That's something you probably see in the summertime most of the time. And as we kind of get into Friday night into the overnight hours, now you kind of have linear storm mode here, which can bring in with the chance for damaging winds and probably for some QLCS tornadoes, which is tornadoes along squall line, which I believe I just got this out in eastern Tennessee. Look at that hodograph. That's a very large curve right here. Very large. Critical angle number 50, storm wave to Felicity, very high. This is a pretty good sounding. I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty good sounding here. And the Cape, a little bit lower, but it's still favorable. But probably one of the limiting factors right now is the lap rates. So I've also been trying to at least go up with the lap rates, but it doesn't seem to be that good enough. So that's probably the only thing we're really lacking with this event is the lap rates. We'll take a look to the Her model, which does not go through the entire event. It kind of gets into the beginnings of the event, so we'll kind of go straight towards that. And you can see here, we do have some thunderstorm activity. Some of these could be supercells across northern Mississippi, possibly to northwestern Alabama, and even for some decent thunderstorms across central Arkansas as well. Even a couple of Boeing segments here too, which can pose to a damage and wind risk there as well. And take a look to the latest GFS model. This is actually trending towards what the European model is showing. So as you can see here, your low pressure system at this point will actually be right here. Take a look at that widespread thunderstorm activity there. I mean, northern Kentucky, southern Ohio, talking about some very widespread thunderstorm activity here, which some of those could be strong to severe. But if we kind of back it up here, you can see here, it's not that high res of a model, so it's going to be kind of like a broad brush with the coloring and stuff like that. So it's not really going to pinpoint these thunderstorms that well. But you can tell here, it does show possibly some thunderstorm activity across most of Mississippi. That's something to watch for. But what's also pretty impressive here is shows these thunderstorms here. To me, I think this is a little bit impressive here. And by the way, with the rainfall amounts, yeah, it's pretty ugly. I mean, 4 to 5 inches of rain, if that verifies, which I don't think it will. I mean, very widespread on that thunderstorm activity, which I don't think that's going to happen there with thunderstorms that widespread, but that'd be kind of insane there if we're going to see something like that. So let's kind of backtrack here to the European model. And one of the biggest factors into this severe weather setup is going to be the 850 millbar winds. And this is what we also know as the low level jet. Now, the last event, the low level jet was pretty weak, to say the least here. But this event, it's expected to be pretty strong. So, especially when you get into Kentucky and Tennessee. That's where the strongest of the low-level jet's going to be. So take a look at the European model. Yeah, take a look at the low-level jet. And you can see here the low-level jet here. You got numbers as high as at least 65 knots will be favorable for damaging wind threat and also for the tornado threat. But as you kind of get to the overnight hours, those numbers do increase, especially across southern Indiana, which is not in the warm sector here. The warm sector is like out here. But yeah, that's some pretty strong winds at 850 millibars. One thing to note here is with 850 millibar winds, it also can indicate with the strong winds at the surface. So if you're going to see wind gusts, winds this high here, I mean, you're talking about 80 knot winds at the surface, the winds may actually be wind gusting up to, I'll say, about 65, 70 miles an hour, which some also been spitting out 80 plus mile an hour wind gusts, which I don't think that's going to happen. But if we're going to have a very strong low level jet, there's going to be some strong winds at the surface. And that's what kind of leads me to kind of the next topic here, which will go back to severe weather. Let me show you guys the wind gusts, which is becoming one of my concerns right now. So you can see here how this low just rapidly deepens. And then as you kind of get to 11 o'clock Thursday night, 72 mile an hour wind gusts, south central Kentucky. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Probably with thunderstorms? Yeah, possibly. St. Louis 81 mile an hour wind gusts? Nope, not going to happen. We'll, we'll just put it that way. 4 o'clock in the morning, take a look at those wind gusts. Indianapolis 70 mile an hour wind gusts. I don't think that's going to happen either. Take a look at the GFS. With the latest run, it's actually pretty similar to the European model. I mean, take a look at this. At 1 o'clock in the morning, southwestern Ohio, wind gusts about 70 miles an hour. Do I think it's going to happen? It's a possibility, to be honest. I mean, the GFS model does a pretty good job of these wind gusts, I'm not going to lie. And I think it's better than some of the other models with wind gusts, at least to my experience. It's a pretty rarity to see 70 mile an hour wind gusts from the GFS model. You don't see that happen often. So that's something quite interesting there. That's eventually going to move to the northeast. So the peak of the winds here, at least of the strongest of the winds with this system, it's going to be somewhere across portions of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Those will be the states to watch for pretty strong winds, especially Thursday night. That's where some of the strongest winds are going to be, at least at the time frame wise, with some of these areas. High-risk dam does not go throughout the entire event, but you can see here strong wind gusts in the warm sector, close to 60 miles an hour in some places across portions of central and eastern Kentucky. And look at that, southeastern Ohio, 65 mile an hour wind gust within some of these higher elevations. So definitely something we gotta watch here pretty closely here. Excuse me, with the wind gust. So let's take a look at some other balls with the low level jet. So we'll take a look to the high-risk dam next with this. So wait for it to load a little bit. But you can see here, so here comes your first war front right here. The secondary war, secondary war front's not gonna be too far behind. Which if we kind of go towards the end of the run, you can see here with that load of a jet kicking in, right down here, I made 65 knots with a load of a jet. That's pretty favorable for severe weather. It really is when you think about it. And when we go at the end of the run, you're going to start to see some ridiculously high numbers with the load of a jet across portions of Tennessee and Kentucky when it gets there. Let me actually back this up a little bit. Yeah, here we go. You can see here. Yeah, that's 80 plus knots, which is ridiculously high. We'll get a sounding in there to show you guys what it looks like. You can see here. Yeah. Now, there's not going to be any cape in place, but the wind shear, I mean, it's going to be ridiculously high. I mean, look at this photograph here. I mean, if we got a cape, that's going to be an extremely large curve. And that's going to be favorable for strong tornadoes. But in this case, we do not have any capes, so your tornado threat will stay a little bit lower in. But yeah, that's a pretty strong winds here. 850 millibars. That's pretty impressive. Man, it just gets even worse here. I never seen the story rate to felicity number this high. 1,100. That is extremely high. Keep in mind, you only need 150. That's all you need. You got 1,100. That is ridiculous. And I think I saw one sounding at one point showed 1,700. That's the highest I ever seen before on a storm relative helicity forecast from a weather model. Just ridiculous amount of storm relative helicity that we could be dealing with here. We'll get one more sounding real quick. You can see here again, no cape here, but still a crazy sounding regardless here. Which I don't think it's not going to take a whole lot of cape here with this type of environment here. Just to keep in mind of that. So let's take a look to the little jet on the NAM here. I'm not going to show you guys on, well, I'm not going to show you guys on the HER because it does not go for the entire event. We'll wait until see about 0C tonight. We'll see what it shows. You can see here with the low of a jet again. Eastern Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, getting to southeastern Ohio, and northwestern West Virginia with those very high, with a strong, very strong low of a jet. It's something you don't see that often. Keep in mind of that, guys. This is something you don't see that often here of a low level jet, at least in the warm sector. This is some of the strongest winds here that I've seen here in a warm sector. So you're going to have a very strong low level jet. That's going to be one of the big factors to the severe weather setup. And we'll very quickly take a look to the GFS as well. I mean, while that loads, we'll take a look into the GFS ensembles with the superset composite parameters, and this is the mean with all members. Now, on the last video, what I was showing you guys by this model here with the mean, it shows so the highest um, superset composite numbers in southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and I believe southwestern Alabama as well. Well, now it's actually further to the north, and that's something we've been seeing a trend for the past few runs on the models. The severe weather threat is moving to the north, and is even expanding with time as well. I mean, moving into the next time frame, you see some of the bigger numbers. It's even up into southern Kentucky. So this is something we gotta pay attention to. I mean, this is becoming a larger area because on the last video, it was looking to be probably a little bit more center somewhere in here. Well, now it's like in here. It's a larger area now at this point here. So this is something we really have to pay attention to. And if we take a look to the GFS here, yeah, you got a pretty strong load of a jet again. And I think you guys kind of get the point at this point here. There is going to be a strong load of a jet with this setup. Let's see. Uh, let's take a look into. I'm not going to waste too much more time here, so we'll take a look to the superset composite here. Well, actually, let's skip the GFS. Let's go ahead straight to the higher resolution models since they are pinpoint a little bit better. Well, we could probably kind of go back here real quick. You can see here with the superset composite parameters. Look at these numbers here. It's high as a 22 at some places. So this indicates a pretty favorable environment for supercells. And you can see here, it's not that impressive here than what some of the other models are showing. Actually, hold on a minute. It was in the wrong time frame. Here, let's try that again. Yeah, there we go. So you can see here, pretty good sounding here. I mean, very warm temperatures. So I mean, low 80s for temperatures. That is very warm for March. I mean, that's no joke right there. Solar relative felicity is pretty good. I mean, everything's good to go. Even the lap rates. Look at that. Lap rates. It's actually even favorable there as well. And like I said, that's the limiting factor. It actually shows to be a favorable environment. If this is going to be correct, pretty much all the severe weather ingredients are there for a big severe weather outbreak here. Which unfortunately, that's what we're kind of trending towards. Let's move it a little further north. Let's take like to north central Mississippi, which is going to show some lower numbers, but still a good sounding either way. I mean, storm rate to velocity numbers are higher, so you got a better wind shear environment. The Cape numbers may be a little bit lower, but those are still good Cape numbers. 2,200, that's still good. Lap rates is also still good. Excuse me. Again, critical angle number 58, that's favorable. Holograph, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good sounding right there. And you can see here with the supercell composite, it does expand all the way up into Severn, Kentucky there as well. So let's take a look to the highest dam with this. So, so, and I'll warn you guys here, with the highest dam, the models, every single model were well overdone with the significant tornado parameters on the last event. On the last event, balls were showing as high as an 8, which in reality, it was only got as high as a 3. So take these STPs like a grain of salt. On this event, I think they're likely going to be too high, but either way, it's still going to show significant numbers if we back this off a little bit to my thinking here, which probably as high as a 4 or maybe to a 5 in some places. Which, keep in mind, if you're at a 1, you got a tornado threat. If you're at a 2, that's a chance for a significant tornado. And if I'm just saying a 4 to a 5, that's still some good numbers. And take a look at these significant tornado parameters. Across Mississippi, Alabama, portions of Louisiana, you got numbers as high as a 6. And even over that as well. That's just crazy, in my opinion there. And we'll only take a look to a couple other models here really quick, so we don't waste a lot more time here. Yeah, take a look into the NAM here, and we'll cherry pick this real quick. Severn, Mississippi. And you can see here, it's a pretty good sounding. And a lot of other models here show something similar to this. You even got wind direction of height too. Winds and surface is straight for the south. Winds a little bit at 850 millibars are actually for the southwest. You actually do have wind direction with height as well. Everything else is just good to go with severe weather. So pretty much all your ingredients is there. Which is significant terrain parameters does get as far north as it to southwestern Indiana as well. We'll get a sounding in southwestern Kentucky too, because that's going to be another area to watch too. Keep in mind of that. And that's still a good sounding here. We got an elevated mix layer here. You can tell we're in the mid levels, but other than that, still a good sounding here as well. Still favorable for some severe weather. And I don't think there's anything else here. I mean, all I could tell you guys here is there's a decent chance of seeing a significant severe weather event across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Arkansas, and even as far north as Tennessee and maybe Kentucky. That's getting a little excessive, but either way, there's still going to be a significant severe weather setup. Now, if we do get widespread thunderstorms in the morning, which models do indicate there could be no cap in the morning, that will keep the instability a little bit lower. But the severe weather threat will still be there. It just won't be as bad as what some of the models are predicting. Now, if we do get a cap in the morning, that's not good. That's going to prevent showers and storms to develop. And when a cap breaks, you could get big time supercells to develop that could produce all hazards. So that's something we got to watch for as well. So this is something I haven't really shown on the channel before. This is the SREF model. Basically what this is a ensemble. So basically most of the models that we have kind of put into one model. So it kind of averages thing out. This is kind of like an ensemble forecast. This is what the SPC uses for forecasting, and same way for the other National Resource offices. So what I'm going to show you guys here is the significant tornado parameters. And like I said earlier in the video, one, there's a tornado threat. Two, and above, that's a potential for a strong or significant tornado. We also added in the day 3 consecutive outlook here to see how it kind of matches up with your forecast. So if we kind of start off here, check out these numbers across portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas. You got numbers as high as a 6 in some places, which I think is pretty accurate. But look at those numbers as they expand to the north here. And this has been a trend here with the models. I mean, that's 2004 up into Kentucky. And that's just double to what you need for severe weather, which is kind of a concern here, at least for my own area. And that's why I think a slight risk or even enhanced risk can get expanded up to some of those regions. So we need to watch for that region as well. And if we kind of continue on here with that cold front, you see it here when we get to the overnight hours into the morning, the severe weather threat diminishes at that point. So this is my forecast here for day 3. So this is not an SPC forecast. Keep in mind that this is my forecast. So I do have a moderate risk in place for northeastern Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, central and northern Mississippi, and northwestern Alabama, and even for far southwestern Tennessee. Primary threats, the chance for tornadoes, some of those could be strong. Damaging winds, and there can also be some hail. Enhanced risk is basically the same thing, it's just the tornado threat is a little bit lower in some of those areas in there. Which it does include central and northern Alabama, the western half of Tennessee, for the most part, um, the northern half of Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas as well, and even for portions of southern Mississippi. Now, we do have a slight risk in place for most of Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Ohio, southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, the eastern half of Arkansas, far eastern Texas, most southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and even to south central Alabama. And we do have a large margin risk area for some of the similar regions. It's just most of Indiana and Ohio, western West Virginia, and even for southeastern Illinois as well. But the main areas to watch here are the areas in enhanced and moderate risk. Those will be the main areas to watch for that significant tornado threat. And do not be surprised if the SPC upgrades to moderate risk tomorrow. That's something I do expect for the SPC to do as well. So again, this forecast will change here. I may update this either tonight or tomorrow. More than likely tomorrow, if things do change here with the models, which that's something I do expect here when we have better confidence in the forecast. Now, not only we do have the high wind potential and the severe weather potential, there's also going to be a little bit of a flood risk as well. So this is the weather prediction for tonight. Got a slight risk across southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and southern Alabama, where some of these places will receive a lot of rain, which I believe these areas have received a lot of rain today. Yeah, these areas will be receiving a lot of rain for the next couple of days. Pretty much the same thing for tomorrow. And then day 3, we do have a slight risk for excessive rainfall for northeastern Mississippi, northern Alabama, central Tennessee, and also for south central Kentucky. So there is a chance for some flooding in some of these areas, so we need to keep an eye on that, especially when supercells trained over some of the same areas. And that's something we need to watch for as well, because supercells can produce a lot of rain in a short period of time as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you can put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.